Welcome to the bench, a space for conversations that help us uncover our truest self. No masks, no judgment, just love. My name's Rob. I'm joined today by my friend Cam, coming to us from West Virginia. Uh, Cam, actually, you're probably like the first. Not the I don't know about the first supporter of Play Explore Love, but like you've got the logo tattooed on your leg. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess day one supporter,
Day one
I got
supporter.
yeah, I got a tattooed right on my thigh. Just really I like that idea of love that you explained to me back in Tennessee, last year, and just really stuck with me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's cool, man. It's really been fun, like getting to know you and kind of, yeah, now that we're going on tour this summer together and talking about moving to Florida together. And um because I think there's been yeah, I mean, I think, you've very much related to the path that I've been on, and I've very much related to the path you've been on, and we've been able to kind of share, share field notes, I guess, that relate well with each other. Um and a little bit about what we're going to talk about today that kind of ties in nicely to this idea of success and shame. I think even a little bit I'd like to touch on at some point of just like how we kind of got our views of what success is, and then how those kind of hang on even when we're trying to let go. And yeah, if you want to say anything about that, we've kind of been talking about it the past couple of days. But
yeah. I mean, well, first I'm just excited, to talk about this and dive into this a little bit. But I mean, yeah, just the idea of success. I think the first thing that sticks out to me really is something you said to me, and it wasn't even about success. It was really just about our emotions and our feelings. And it was the first time we really ever met was when we worked together in Tennessee at the shooting college for the weekend. And you talked about just asking yourselves questions. So like if I'm having a good day or if I'm having a bad day, I just ask myself, well, why is this particularly a good day? Or why am I so happy today? Or why am I sad today? And then you really get to, okay, today was a good day because of this. And then just from asking those questions, it's the same thing with success, right? We can ask ourselves, well, what makes him successful? Why is that? And then just really defining success for yourself and asking those questions, I think, is just a starting factor to really figuring out, being happy, I think, and being fulfilled in that.
yeah, and allowing yourself, like, and that's something that I've done a lot, but that I still then forget. I think like you even saying this reminds me of that. Uh, like this past week, really the past couple weeks, I've been working on this Play Explore Love curriculum and really trying to finalize it, um, and trying to figure out what success. Because I work from home and I work for myself, and then you're kind of in a similar situation where have a lot of we have a lot of time in the day to decide what to do with it. And so there's all of these frameworks and ideas that I think like is the right way to design that time. Uh, and so I've been, trying lately to like really structure my day and make sure that I get certain things done, and judge my day by like, am I creating something as a product? Like, are there tangible things getting created? And I realized actually just this morning that that's not really bringing me a lot of joy. It's actually causing me a lot of conflict and a lot of like shame because I'm not producing in that way. But yeah, that's not the main, like, that's not the way that brings me the most happiness or like brings me the most harmony. Like this morning, actually, with no real plans, I've just kind of been allowing myself to flow a little bit. I've had a conversation with my mom. I've had a conversation with Jazz and like did some, help them with some things they were working on. And yeah, it's funny when I just kind of get out of my own way, like how my day just goes, and I'm not so, yeah, I feel like I get in this space where when I'm somewhere, I'm like if I'm doing something, I wish I were doing something else. And then when I'm doing that something else, I'm like, oh, but I should be doing, the first thing. And no one wins in that situation. No one wins. Just do whatever it is that you're doing.
No, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. So, spending a lot of time at home and now working from home, it's like I have so much time where I'm just, you know, I just have a lot of time on my hands where I get to choose basically what I'm doing. And then when I choose to do something, let's say productive or to grow myself, like I've been wanting to journal every morning. So when I wake up and I journal, sometimes it feels good, and then sometimes it really feels like a chore. And then sometimes I'll write, I want to write 3 pages, I'll write 2.5, or I'll write a page, and I'm like, wow. And I start feeling bad about myself, like, damn, I can't even write 3 pages. Or then like the last couple of days, I haven't journaled at all, just because I haven't been feeling like it. And I mean, honestly, it's been my mornings have started off great the last couple of days, and it's not like I had a routine, and the journaling was something I wanted to add to my routine. So like, I think, yeah, it's just funny because I feel bad not doing it, but at the same time, in the moment, it feels good not to do it, right? So yeah, that's just, finding the balance between, do I feel bad about it? Why do I feel bad about it? That's the question, I guess, to ask about it. Ask why.
Yeah. Well, then one thing I read on I think it was James Clear, like his newsletter, he was saying, like, make lots of bets, lots of quick bets, and then just double down on the winners, and don't bet on the others. And I think, um, yeah, I think in the world that we're in, there's a lot of talk about how to make yourself better and all of these practices to like grow yourself, like journaling or meditation or yoga or whatever it may be. Um, and there's a lot of merit to a lot of those practices. I mean, there's a lot to gain from those things, but it's not the practice in and of itself that is the end goal, right? It's not like the end goal isn't, oh, I can sit on a mat for an hour and meditate. The end goal is that I'm able to be present in my day, right? The end goal isn't that I'm able to journal. The end goal is that I'm able to be reflective about what's going on and be this like non-judgmental observer of my life. And so I think sometimes it's easy, I know for myself, to get lost in the practices that I'm not doing and judging myself because I'm not doing certain practices that I think are going to be for my betterment, but then forgetting that I'm actually still practicing living, living in a way that those practices, support, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like kind of like you said, just finding the ones that work for you, right? So like maybe journaling is what's best for some people, and then for me, it might not be the best thing, but it's a good exercise, and maybe I haven't done it consistently enough to figure out if it sticks. But yeah, just doing different things and finding what works for you, I think is one of the best ways to go about it. Go about anything really is just getting reps at different things rather than just listening to what you think should happen.
Yeah. And I think allowing, like in that process of growing too, like accepting that it's okay to ease off. And sometimes like we say, oh, I'm going to do, I think there's this kind of, I think there's this kind of propensity for this like throttle on mentality of, I say I'm going to do X number of reps or this amount of time on a thing, and I just got to get there. Like I got to grind through it. I got to sacrifice to it. I got to, and to some level, I think that's, really beneficial because we likely can do more than our mind is like allowing us to in the moment. We probably can push ourselves a little bit more, but there's a time, and I think I actually like I would actually, lean towards easing off more than leaning towards throttling on, because stay in that zone where it's fun, like stay in that zone where you can, like in yoga, they talk about don't go so deep into a pose that you lose your breath. Yes, maybe your body could go deeper and do more, but then you're going to lose the rhythm in it. And so, like the other day, to give a tangible example of this, I've been talking about get shots up and wanting to make 10,000 shots by, uh, by the summer. And I went and I had been wanting to make 100 a day. Like that was the thing. I was like, I'm going to make 100 a day. I'm going to shoot sets of 50. And Monday I just was not feeling it. I was like, I'm just not trying to go to the gym today and get a really like, legit workout in and count and all that. but I was like, but I can at least go and shoot, do something. And so I just went and I just, shot around for like 30 minutes and was shooting like crazy, like James Harden fadeaways and just having fun. But like maintaining that habit of going was better than, and like easing off a little bit was better than just saying, oh, well, shoot, I'm just not going to do anything. Although that would have been okay too, I guess, either way, it's all, it's all okay. But
yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I know they do say, once you don't do it one time, it's a lot easier to break it a second time, right? Like once you don't get to the gym the first time, that second time, it's a lot easier not to go. So yeah, definitely staying in the habit of just doing it is a big thing. And whether that being, like you said, kind of just going and having fun. That's one of the best things I heard about, just showing up to work every day. Is just, the days you don't feel like going, show up, but you can kind of just go through the motions on those days. It's still about just getting in the habit of going every day. And, you might not have it every single day, but a day you really don't want to go, just go. Might not be the best workout, maybe even do half a workout, but, the next day when you wake up again, you'll probably feel like going again and you'll be happy that you stuck to it.
yeah. No, it's totally, my buddy Mike, he was saying, he was like, I don't take off days. I just have hard days and light days and recovery days, like it's all, and I think that's, and what that looks like is different, right? I think like if you have a really busy day on a Wednesday, like yesterday, we're recording this on a Thursday. So like yesterday, if you had a really busy day and you were super active, it's okay to then today be, a little more lazy and roll around the house and not do as much and just maybe do some stretching, and like your day can look different. And there's actually a necessity, I think, to that like activity and the repose, right? The yin and the yang of it all. But it is, for me, sometimes then it falls in the other direction of where it goes a couple days in a row where I don't go to the gym or I don't get up or I don't go do something, and I kind of fall into this. It does get harder to get the wheels turning again. And I think, I think too, what I've been working with for myself is that I actually really enjoy it. Like I really enjoy, I don't enjoy lifting that. I can't profess to enjoy lifting, though I know that it's good for me. And I, just kind of making it a meditation as much as I can. But I really enjoy shooting. Like I really enjoy going to the gym and just shooting. And so I think like that's something too, at least for me, staying active, which is like a way that I, think is successful now, is just to do like allow my body space to move. Is like just shooting hoops is a wonderful thing. I love it, man. Yeah, and it doesn't feel like such a grind anymore. It's just fun.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is when you talked about, if you don't go for 3 or 4 days in a row, I think sometimes it's important not to go for those 3 or 4 days in a row, because then, then you have this, then you're really asking yourself the question like, okay, well, what do I feel bad about not going? Well, why do I feel bad about not going? Or do I feel good about not going? Okay, well, why do I feel like that? Because it's really, I just think it's important to know why you're doing it. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. I think what you're really getting at with all of it is just that self-reflection,
Mm-hmm.
is that we are, the question that you really like that I said to you once and that my brother told me, it might be a Timothy Leary question. I don't know who it's from. But what do you know that you haven't been taught or told? And it's like, when you really sit with that for a minute, there's there's not much. I mean, pretty much all of the ways that we view the world, in some respect, we were taught or told that that was the right thing or the right way to do it. And then our personality adjusts to that. It becomes, a kind of not mirror of it, but it, yeah, it's in relation to it for sure. And then, yeah, that becomes who we think we are completely, And so then even when we start to break that down, like for, you and I have talked about how, we were very much taught, like you always had to be growing and working on your brand and your own personal, like, how are you getting better every day? And now we're in this space where it's like, well, okay, but I just kind of want to live. How am I existing every day? How am I just being in this moment? But how hard it is to shake that, like, that voice in the back of our head that's saying, yo, you're being lazy, you're not doing enough, you're not, this isn't okay. And yeah, just that constant battle of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, and not to get into, religion or any of those things, but like, the battle they talk about, God versus the devil, good versus evil, but like that exists on, the inner level as well, right? Because everything you do I want to go to the gym? Oh, I need to go to the gym. And then your inner voice is saying also, well, you don't really need to go to the gym. You went yesterday. Or I want to eat this. I don't want to eat that chocolate cake because, it's not good for me. But, oh, man, you deserve that piece of chocolate cake. Like, really, everything you do in life, there's one side of you saying, yeah, do it. And there's another side of you saying, no, don't do that. So, yeah, it's that constant battle, give and take, and deciding what to listen to and what, I guess, is real.
Totally. Yeah. And and I think that's that's the whole thing, right? Is how do we know what voice to listen to? How do we know what suggestion is coming from our ego and our mind and some societal pressure that we've been told, and what suggestion is coming from our intuition and from this deeper knowing and this deeper being that exists, and yeah, I mean, I think that's really the whole practice of play, explore, love in general, in a nutshell, is really getting us to the place. At least for me, it's helped me get to the place where I can start to ask those questions for myself. Because I think there are a lot of things that get in the way of us being able to look inward and look, truly look at who we are. No mask, no judgment, like, that's not an easy thing to do. And then to accept what we see and say, okay, this is who I am. I'm going to live this out. What else can I be? How, because inherently life changes in that. There's no way that there was a woman told me once, actually, Annie, I don't know, you've been to South Africa, right? And we were talking about marketing, and she said to me, never let your structure dictate your strategy. Always let your strategy dictate your structure. And, this idea in business that, like, if you have a strategy of something, like, don't let what's, actually out here, the structure of your business, dictate your strategy. Like, if you've got a strategy for something, you got to and the structure doesn't fit it, you got to blow it up. And I remember thinking about that a lot when I went out to California, because it was like, I am living within the structure of my life that I think needs to be this, framework and look a certain way. And yet I didn't really put that there. And the strategy that I'm currently working with, and like what I'm currently feeling, doesn't really agree with this structure that's happening. And so, let's throw it out and let's, or at least repurpose it in some way. But that's not, I mean, that's a lot easier said than done, it's, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because, yeah, it's just tough because, you're not sure if you're listening. Do you listen to yourself? Do you listen to people who are older? Because, especially when you're younger, you always think, I always thought growing up, like, adults knew everything, right? They know what's going on. They've been, they say they've been around the block a couple of times, right? They're supposed to know what's going on. But really, as I'm 23, I don't feel any different than when I was 12 years old. You know what I mean? Like, I feel the same. So adults, it's just whether you want to listen to other people or yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's what, like, that's actually funny. My reason for doing this podcast, honestly, because I was so afraid of starting this. And I was like, I don't know that because we're all trying to figure it out. I don't know. This whole idea of play, explore, love, and the thing, they feel right to me. They feel like the right thing to do. And not, they just feel natural, and it feels, yeah, it feels good. So I do it. But like, I don't know in the sense of, ultimate truth or those things. Nobody does. Or at least nobody does in a way that they can tell you. Some people are just more confident about it than others. And actually, one of the reasons that I started this podcast, or finally like had the courage to start this podcast, was because I was looking on the internet and looking at other podcasts, and like, Ben Shapiro's podcast is like, top 10 most listened to. I'm like, this dude's an idiot. And like, nothing that he says makes any logical sense in any respect. And like, he can do this. So what the hell, man? Why, why not? Why not me? But yeah, like, I think that's the biggest lie that we end up telling ourselves or learning, really, is that other people know better than we know. That somebody else knows what we're supposed to do and what our life is supposed to look like, and how we, get to heaven or go to hell, or what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And yeah, how can we ever know? Even if we read all the books in the world, there's always like our vantage point, our viewpoint of it is so narrow that it's like, yeah, how could we ever know all of it?
Oh yeah, you would never. Yeah, you never know. If you know one person or everything, you know a lot, right? But it's like, I think one thing that's making podcasts so popular and like how YouTube's growing, and one reason I encourage, I want to start a podcast, and I know a lot of people do, and I think it's what's so good about it is, and why people listen to them, is because there's such power in telling your story, right? Whether it resonates or not, right? It's just the courage of just listening to someone tell their story honestly and openly, and that's just opening the door for others to do the same, right? And I think that's just why, I don't know, I think that's a huge thing a lot of people are turning to and opening their eyes to, that it's not like people say, in society you're a pawn, or you're technically, quote unquote, slave. But when people start to realize that they individually matter, and their story matters, and their energy and their spirit that they bring ultimately matters in the universe, that's the most powerful thing in the world, really. But it's taking the time to realize that and have others show them that, not necessarily tell them that. And I think a podcast is a beautiful way just to show that you're working on that, and because even like right now, we're doing this podcast, and no one's listening except me and you. We talk almost every day, and I'm like, damn, dude, what do I say? Is this good enough to say? Like, people are gonna listen? Like, damn, does this guy sound stupid? Like, I think just even getting one here and having the courage, like you said, just to start a podcast and all that, and do those things is, what opens the door for everybody to do it.
Yeah. And I think it's really one of those things where, like, we're able to see that we're all connected, and we're all, even if the thing that we're doing and the mask that we're wearing or the role that we're playing in this moment looks different, so be it. They all look different. We all look different, right? We're all different, in our own ways. But yet the things that we're going through on a very human level are very real. The fears, the moments of courage that we step into something new, the moments of play, whether, whatever it is we're playing with, the moments of love. And I think when we're able to see, when you only get certain viewpoints, and you only hear from certain voices, it's easy to get really pigeonholed into believing that, like, there is a very narrow, specialized way of looking at the world, and this thing is right. And, it gets very dogmatic. But as we start to open it up more, and look past the division, look past the distinctions, look past the, oh, this is, there's a wonderful story of, and I'm going to butcher it slightly, but there's a wonderful story of these four guys, and they're in the desert, and there's a Arab, and he asks for, something in Arabic, and the Greek asks for something in Greek, and the Persian asks for something in Persian, and the Turk asks for something in Turkish. And they start fighting because they all ask for something different. They all say a different thing, and they're all fighting about it. And a wise man walks by and says, "Give me your money, I'll get you what you want." They give him the money. He buys a thing of grapes, and they all get what they wanted. Right? They were all asking for grapes. They just said it in different languages, so they thought they were at odds with each other. And I think that's what we really remember and what we realize and are able to see in both sharing our own stories, but in watching and hearing others, is that we are so much more alike, and we are so much more connected, and we are so much more on this journey together than I think we allow ourselves to believe. And then when we stop, living in so much of that separateness, I at least for me, like, I've become less attached to success, because it's like, I'm either going to get there or I'm not. Like, I'm going to walk this mountain or I'm not, if it's my mountain to walk. But how am I with other people? It's not about getting to the top of that mountain or not, right? All of these things are going to pass, no matter how high you get. Like, you got to come down at some point, right? It's always, and that's not to say that you should not go get high then, or fear getting really low. It's all part of it. It's all part of this dance that we're in. But when we remember that we're all doing it together, we stop operating from a place of fear, I think, in a place of shame, in a place of, oh, how can I, do these things better and better myself, and more from a place of love and acceptance, both for others and for ourselves on this journey that we're walking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that makes the journey and all of it so prevalent is that, I mean, just thinking of, like, once this weekend Kobe passed, right? And that's what makes everything just, really reconsider everything, right? Like, wow, like Kobe, like that was my favorite all-time basketball player, right? I got a fat head of him upstairs in my room. I looked at this guy, like a literal legend, like, he can't die. But just, at the blink of an eye, things like that can happen, right? I was doing a basketball workout. I checked my phone. I get the text that, he had passed. And, right, Kobe achieved everything he wanted to do on the basketball court. But with all the posts you see people talking about him, none of it's about, oh, he won 5 championships. He had this many points. All those things are great, right? But they're talking about Kobe was a great guy, man. He was one of the nicest guys I ever met. He was one of the best teammates I ever had. So even though Kobe achieved all the things he wanted to in basketball, what was so special, what made him really successful, was that, he was a great teammate and he was a great dad, and he just opened the doors for so many other people. And that's what really was successful to him. And I'm sure if you could ask him that question, why was he so successful, or what made him successful, he would say that, and not necessarily the basketball accolades.
Yeah. Well, we were actually having a conversation about this on the PGC call, on the director call yesterday, because we just got done reading a book called Range. And we were talking about Kobe, obviously, and somebody brought up that Kobe is a perfect example, is somewhat of an anomaly, in the sense that he was very specialized and very focused on basketball, this like hyper specialized thing, but also, had a ton of range in a lot of other areas and was learning a lot of other things. And my thought on that is, actually, that's kind of, what this kind of awe of Kobe was his, like, ability to learn. And what this other director said was, like, this kind of combination between curiosity and courage, in this continuous desire to grow, but be, in a curious way, not necessarily because they, but it's just, this curiosity about life of, oh, there's a better way to do this. There's another way to think about this. And then having the courage to drop your own tools and to, like, step into this new space when, these new patterns serve you better than the old ones. I think that's really what greatness is in a nutshell, right? Is really this constant curiosity and the constant courage to step into this new space and into this new territory. And then I think what ties it all together and what you were just saying is like how he's talked about as a great father and all of these other things is like, what's the root, intention behind it? Are you curious and courageous because you want to gain power? Are you curious and courageous because you just want to survive? Or are you curious and courageous, and then also loving, and then also in that space where it's just all about love and I'm being the best that I can be because what else can I do? But that's everything, right? It's not just basketball. It's not just school. It's not just teaching. It's not just being a father. It's not just being a partner. It's everything that you do. How can you, constantly be curious, constantly be courageous, and constantly come from a place of love? And that's essentially the essence of play, explore, love. I mean, that's essentially the essence of, you play with this enthusiastic curiosity and explore with courage, and then love unconditionally. And that being, the practice of no matter what you do, just doing that at the heart of it.
And so I'll just ask this. So, and we talked about play, explore, a good bit, and you're just now taking the steps to, launch it publicly. Now, what would be, since we're talking about success, just talk about a little bit what success would look like for you and, for play, explore, lovers, just, you taking that step and doing it. Is that, in a way that's just success,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, John Beeline said something years ago when he was coaching at Michigan. He said, "You guys are." It was the night. It was before the national championship game against Louisville, and he said, "You guys are champions before regardless of the result, regardless of the outcome of this game. You guys are champions. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be playing in this moment if you weren't champions." And they obviously ended up losing the game, and so it's they wouldn't walk around and say, "Hey, we won the championship," but they were champions in the essence, right? And so I think for me, I've really changed the way that I view success in starting play, explore, love, and really starting to, I think there's like 20 or so people that consistently listen to this podcast, and I've been doing it for 3 months, and I think it's been wildly successful because I've done it every week. And every week there's a new episode, and every week there's somebody on it, and every week I've showed up as the truest version of myself, and I've put myself, as openly out there as I capable of in this moment. And so, that to me is success. I think, am I taking the step that is necessary to take? And if I am, then that's how I view success at this point in my life, and specifically with play, explore, love. Because I think like I said, right? I mean, like Ben Shapiro's podcast has millions of listeners, and he's incredibly successful. Is his message really that great for the world? Is it making people's lives better? And so, and that's, it's for him to figure out. That may have come off judgmentally. Maybe it is. We're not perfect. But like, I think it's am I living in alignment with the truest version of myself as best I can in each moment of the day? Understanding, like your other tattoo on your leg says, better at 70, that what that looks like, is just gonna evolve over time. So am I living in the closest alignment with it in this moment? Some days I'm better than others, but every day aware, right? Like you talked at the beginning, just noticing it's enough, asking the questions. What does the truest version of myself look like? What does my life look like when I live in alignment with it? How does it feel? What do I notice? What gets in the way of it? You know, and then just bringing your awareness to that is enough, I think. If you need somebody to talk to, check out the website.
Yeah, I saw a really good quote by Jordan Peterson the other day. Basically, he says that if you speak with your truth and you speak it with love, everything else that happens after that is what's supposed to happen, right? I don't necessarily believe in, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for the reason that you gave it, right? The reason that. So basically, if I go around and if I just speak with my version of the truth, right? If I continue to ask those questions, and at this moment I gave you the fullest truth that I can, and I speak that with love, everything else happens after that is, and that's what doesn't even really matter, right? Because I did everything I could at that time. I did the best that I could. I said it with love. You might like it, you might not like it, you might think I'm crazy, you might whatever, but that's all my job is to do that. And then if everybody did that, then who knows what would happen.
Yeah. I think in its essence, I agree with that statement. I think there is a I think that we have a tendency sometimes, and I don't think this is what you mean by it, but I think this is just what happens with that, of like, it becomes a very egoic love, and it's, I'm saying it out of love. So I say whatever I say to you, and it's very much an ego driven thing that I'm saying, something that I'm projecting, something that I'm judging, something, whatever. And I say that I'm saying it to you because I love you, and I'm doing it in love. But was it really? It isn't always, I think. And and there's no really way to judge that of another. But I think for us, just like when I think about my intentions, do it in love is my second intention. Do no harm is the first. And I think, because the thing that can sometimes happen with that idea of like, if I do it in love and I say it in love, then it just kind of is what it is. In some respects, serves to like absolve us of when it is what it is actually does harm and is, hurtful for somebody else. And that doesn't mean that like sometimes doing what we do and telling the truth is always going to, sound good. Sometimes we have to tell hard truths, right? That's like, these two things aren't inherently the same. Like those hard truths might be hurtful, but they're not, they're out of love, and sometimes you got to tell them. But yeah, I think just being aware of like, the intention is always to do it in love, but then if the like action and the actual like, consequence of what we do causes harm or causes hurt or causes disharmony or causes something that, wasn't loving, and I think we need to take it upon ourselves to then remedy, or do what we can, if we can, to, remedy, or at least, atone for that.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. The example I always use, and it's a tricky example, I guess, is that, let's say, I was dating this girl, and I really loved this girl, but then I realized, I got to break up with her because she's just not what I see myself being with. All right. So then I choose to break up with her. But I say, there's a good way about it and there's a bad way to go about it. And if you do that, if I do it with love and I explain, the truth of the matter, that, I just don't see myself being with them, and I just think it's best for the both of us, we'll both be happier our separate ways, right? It's going to hurt them in the moment, but in time, they're going to be better. They're going to be happier because of it, right? So that's the fine line, right? You can hurt them, in a quick way, you could break up with them in a harshful way, and the thing that would really hurt their feelings, or you could just speak your truth and try to do it with love the best you can, and if things happen that it's not going to go perfect, but I still think that's the best case scenario, right? That you say it with your truth and you try to be as loving as possible. And then in the end, it's going to work out, right? Now, again, it's not always going to work out. And there's going to be times where you make the mistake and you need to go fix that. I agree with that. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, so like Ram Dass's Guru Maharaji said, when asked, how do you live? Like, what's the way to live? Love everyone and tell the truth. That's it. Love everyone and tell the truth. I think what I was, so like exactly what she's like, I agree. If the truth is the truth, you can't, like the other day, Juliana and I were we didn't really get in a fight, but we were just, we were just having a conversation, and like, I told her the truth about the way I was feeling about some things. And it was like, she didn't enjoy hearing that. But like, one of the things that I said was like, that I love you. And that means I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, we're not going to, my intention's not to hurt you, but like, I'm not going to, like, I'm going to tell you the truth. We're going to be honest. I don't think there's any way around that. I think what I was getting at was like, because that is rooted in such a deep love. I think it's just the concept of love sometimes is this very egoic love, and this idea of like, this kind of transactional love, and that I do for you, so you do for me. And, and then in that scenario, like, I have my very egoic idea of the way the world is supposed to be, and then I try and impose that on you to make your world better. But like, and I say I'm doing it out of love, but it's not it's not necessarily like, you can't impose anything on anybody. You can only offer. And then, like Juliana and I was like, she'll that doesn't mean don't give advice, right? Like, I smoke tobacco sometimes when I'm with my brother, and she was like, I hate it when you smoke tobacco. It's so bad for you. And I'm just like, okay, thank you. I'll take your opinion into consideration. What else can I appreciate your advice. I know you're saying it with love. Thank you. And that's,
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I just, yeah, I think I'm just like hyper, I think I'm just I'm hyper sensitive to the colloquialisms that then get like, that then become cover for like these egoic things that we allow. Like, I know that's not where you were going with it, or like what the, like, that wasn't I just think it's important to like talk about how, like, one we use at PGC all the time, it's not about you. Sometimes turns into so it's always about somebody else, and it's never okay to do things for yourself, and it's never okay to be quote unquote selfish. It's, you always have to do what's best for the team and what's best for others. And like, I don't think that's the depth of that. To me, it's not about you, is like, it's not about you, but it's not about it's not about you. It's not about either of our egos. It's about what's best for the soul. And sometimes that does mean what's doing best for my body. And sometimes that's doing what's best for the team as a whole. Sometimes it's, doing what's best for you as an individual and getting outside and serving you. Sometimes it's, serving myself and recharging so that I can then serve you, but it's like, yeah, any scripture, any verse, any mantra, anything, even something like Play, Explore, Love, that's this like kind of philosophy to live by. It's nothing without a practice. It's nothing without doing it, and doing it openly and honestly, and like allowing yourself to just dive into it and open up to the depths of it outside of what your mind thinks it's supposed to be. Because as long as it's in like, oh, this thing makes sense, this quote makes sense, I'm going to live by this quote. You're living by the law isn't the wrong thing to do by any means. So it's like, but I think when you start to touch that depth within you, when you start to touch that truest part of your being, as all of the prophets have talked about, you become the laws. It's not, oh, I need to be kind. It's I just am kind. What else, how else can I be? If I'm love, if I touch the place in me that's love, and then I realize that you could touch that same place in you, and then how can I not love you? How can I look at you and see an other? Or somebody, how can I look at you that's hungry and not want to give you food? Doesn't mean I can every time, it doesn't mean I can always help you out, but it's like that compassion and that understanding and that kind of just acceptance of how this dance is going, and we're all just unfolding in the way that we're unfolding, just becomes, it just becomes so natural. It's just, okay, and the dance goes on, and let me grow to the best of my ability, and let me continue to be curious and continue to be courageous, and see what I can do with this thing. Hey, I'm in this body for how long? Who knows? Life is fragile. Who knows how many more moments there are? And I think that's the big, for me, what I am reminded of in death, and when there's these, because it's not new, it may make it more in the front of our brain and more frontal of our mind, but like, everybody on some level acknowledges and knows that we're going to die. Our body is going to, in the end, ultimately, we can take none of this with us, not even the body that we've traveled in the whole time we've been here. We can't take it. And so I think that, as long as we continue to fear that, as long as we continue to sit in that, like, afraidness of what we ultimately can't control, we lose the best lesson in that, is that we ultimately can't control it. So why spend so much time worrying about that when I could be spending that time thinking about, how am I creating this aliveness? How am I enjoying this aliveness? How am I enjoying this moment of life, of essence, of being, of existence? Am I griping about everything? Am I bitching about this? Am I wishing that I was doing something else, like I am sometimes, often? Or am I in the moment? Am I playing with it? Am I joyous with it? Am I accepting that it's all okay? Am I remembering that I'm loved? Am I remembering to be reflective, look at myself? And it just, it really just comes down to, like, we get to create heaven in this moment. Like, I don't know what exists after we die. Some people say you go to heaven, some people say you're reincarnated, maybe you go to hell, maybe you do. I don't know. And the reality is that nobody on this plane knows for sure. So from my point of view, from my perspective, how do I create heaven in this existence right now? And that cannot look anything other than love, because God is love. And all of the prophets that have talked about God have not been treated as great, as Hazrat Inayat Khan says, have not been treated as great. Their wonders have not been their prophecies or their miracles or even their teaching. It's just been their love and their loving manner, because that is the thing that connects to all of us, that all of us, if we go deep enough in there, it's just love. That's all it is. And the quicker we touch that, I think, and remember that, the more enjoyable this whole trip is.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Cool. That might be a good place to stop.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that was probably pretty good.
Yeah, it was good, because I mean, yeah, nothing else for me to say about that. It was just good, I thought.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I feel like I'm here, let me stop the recording.